G'day and welcome to the GameDay Squad NRL Fantasy Show. I'm Dyl, that's Stu, and we are the Fantasy Bros. We are very excited to once again partner with GameDay Squad to bring you everything you need to know to succeed in GDS Rugby League in 2026. It is Wednesday. You know what that means. Teamless Tuesday has dropped. Look, we've got plenty to discuss. Obviously, Origin Game 1 is in the books. It's in the rearview mirror. We've had our first major bye round. It also marks halfway of the regular season, which is pretty crazy to think. We've got round 14 coming up. Plenty to discuss, though. We've seen a stack of changes on the leaderboards, and a massive shout out to FantasyBros Has from the AFL side of things. He's currently sitting second on the starter leaderboard. So him and I are battling in opposite sports at the moment. Me doing quite well on the starter leaderboard over on AFL. Stu, welcome to the show, mate. Before we get into our positional rankings, let's go around the grounds. How'd you go with Origin and the round 13 that followed?
Yeah, look, Origin in terms of GDS went pretty well. I think I finished top 10 there, made just about every single right decision, apart from maybe one player, and just didn't quite have the rarities that some of the other players used. I know that there were a few coaches rolling out full special card squads, but look, round 13 was okay without being amazing. 6th in the Sunday Showdown, and then a whole heap of results in the teens, 12th, 13th, and 19th in primetime, champion, and challenger. Probably got 2 or 3 mistakes. Was quite busy over the weekend. You would have known, obviously, with my Nan's big 100th birthday. So actually missed a couple of team changes and that sort of thing, which is really unlike me. So I was actually happy to still be in the top 20 after what I thought was a bit of a down week, but really keen to bounce back this week. How did you go, mate?
Yeah, look, firstly, congrats to Nan for making 100, and it's no one's going to blame you for missing a couple of late changes because of that. And as you said, although some of those changes meant that you missed a couple of players, the leaderboards at the end of the round were actually really close. I think I ended up on 25th in Challenger, and I was only about 20 points or 30 points behind you. So there was nothing in it across a lot of the competitions. I ended up 7th in the prime time, and then 4th in Sunday Showdown. I just missed out. I think there was a couple of guys in there that had already claimed a ticket, and but one person snuck ahead of me, unfortunately. So I'm getting there. I'm there and thereabouts. We'll just hope that this weekend can bring a little bit more joy. You can see on screen, Jacob Carraz was the one that got you over the line there, playing fullback. He had a pretty good score of 85. So would have outscored majority of wingers, except for obviously Surfire Longo. And then I had Alamotti on the Sunday. I put it out there. We put it out there Sunday afternoon that we had 3 key points of difference for the Sunday Showdown. And those 3 were Alamotti, Willison, and Weeks. And they all went on to score almost 70 points across the board. So if you were following along on Insta or TikTok, you would have seen that and got that mail to be able to put them into your side. So keep an eye out for that as well. We'll be doing that post every Sunday.
Yeah, that was a great post. And I dare say, I think the winner might have been Toby's Troops. I dare say the winner for the Sunday Showdown would have had all 3. So, yeah, absolutely. A couple of great calls there, mate. Well done. And we'll look to continue that rolling into this week. So, viewers, as you can see, we're still having plenty of success across all competitions. And as always, we'll be coming live to you every single Wednesday night at 6 p.m, previewing all things for the upcoming round. We'll also do the Queensland versus New South Wales game 2 and game 3 preview as well. Let's hope the Maroons can bounce back after what was a pretty disappointing final 20 minutes there. So our weekly Wednesday shows, we're going to preview who we think are going to be the best plays across each of the positional groups. We'll talk about the starts, the players that we strongly consider, the players that we think are going to provide some pretty decent point of different options, and some of the players that we're looking at sitting, despite maybe being higher up on the averages and maybe commonly played across the weekend. We'll talk about the team that we're going to roll out in the special primetime competition. We're going to show you who we're going to play in our consensus full round side as well. So you can play along at home and follow how we're going and even copy paste that side if you like. Of course, we'll talk about the under 24 competition as well. We'll plug the Stats Lab primetime competition and our own FantasyBros Sunday Showdown. And as always, the viewers will have plenty of opportunities to win some prizes themselves through that BroDown Showdown segment. If you haven't already, make sure to all of our socials. We're on Spotify, Apple, TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram. Go follow us. Just search at FantasyBros AU. Heaps of content, heaps of pack and card giveaways, and those tips that are going to get you surging up that leaderboard.
Yeah, definitely. Look, and one thing just to point out, you did mention the Sunday Showdown, the FantasyBros Sunday Showdown. Uh, we were looking at, or GDS was looking at having Mondays included in that, but due to some development issues in the past, they have taken the Monday games out of the Sunday Showdown. So it is only the 2 Sunday games this week. There is a Monday game, but that's not included in your Sunday Showdown, just included in the full round. Full slate round. So make sure you don't get any Bulldogs or Eels into your side. And look, it's definitely not too late to get involved. It is round 14. We've had one of our Origin Queensland versus New South Wales competitions already, but there's still plenty of opportunity to win prizes. That's cash and packs as well to build up your squads, just like a whole lot of new users have done this year. Simply download the app or visit the website, create an account, use the promo code FBRL26. That's during that sign-up phase. So don't wait and put it in later where you try to do the referral. That's not going to work. There's a special section called the promo code section. So make sure you put that in there. You're going to get 3x9 player common packs just for doing that. Plus, you're going to use a whole bunch of starter packs as well to start building your starter contender, maybe even your classic side. And we've had plenty of opportunities and we've heard plenty of stories from coaches that have just started out doing that, not necessarily spending any money on the transfer market or buying packs, and they've built up a nice collection of cards over time. So why wait? There's almost $4,000 in prizes, in cash prizes up for grabs each and every week. So make sure you sign up and collect, coach, and compete against the very best. Alrighty, let's jump straight into it. So we're going to kick it off with our hookers. Remember, if you are new to GameDay Squad, you've got the forwards rotation. That includes 1 hooker, 3 middles, and 2 edges. Plus, on your bench, you can have 2 players from any of those positions. So having a look at the hookers to begin, we've got 3 really strongly considered this week. Harry Grant is probably the default with no Blake Brayley. We've also got Oliver Pascoe, who just continues to go from strength to strength, and then Damien Cook as well. Across on the pod side, we've got Reed Marnie and Jake Simpkin, who finds his way back into the starting side. And then our fades are Jeremy Marshall-King and Api Coruscant. Stu, where are you going first? Is it just, like I said, as simple as Harry Grant because there's no Blake Brayley, or are we looking elsewhere across the likes of Pascoe or Cook?
Yeah, no Blake Brayley sort of makes Harry Grant that standout option, despite obviously what you can see on screen there. Damien Cook topping the hooker averages with 58, Pascoe and Grant right next to him with 57. So there's not a lot between the 3. Obviously, question marks over Damien Cook if Jacob Little does take the field. That obviously puts a bit of, put a bit of cap on his potential ceiling if Little does steal some of his minutes. We've seen Oliver Pascoe share some minutes with Luke Summerton, but he has been named in the number 19 jersey. We could see 80 minutes from Pascoe, and if so, gee, he would be a ripper play. But for me, it's Harry Grant. Fewer question marks around him. Melbourne Storm are finally looking like a decent outfit, and if they're going to have any success, it is through Harry Grant. I know the Newcastle Knights are sort of restricting hookers across the season so far, but Harry Grant's probably head and shoulders above a number of those other hookers. I'm not going to read too much into those stats, but it probably is something to consider where coaches may want to go the safety with Oliver Pascoe. Now, I do have that diamond Oliver Pascoe, and that has treated me pretty nicely over the last 3 weeks. He has had some pretty nice scores, 75, 67, 52 in those past 3 weeks. A try and a try assist in those 3 games as well, but it's his tackle count, 62 tackles against the Roosters back in round 10, 49 against the Sea Eagles in round 12, and that wasn't even in 80 minutes. The 50 tackles was in 68 minutes. So yeah, if he can get on the park for 70 plus, he's going to get a pretty handy score in tackles alone. I just think Harry Grant's got that ceiling. So yeah, it'll be Harry Grant in most squads. I'll get the Oliver Pascoe out somewhere, whether it's champion or challenger. Probably have to wait and see.
Yep. Yeah, I like it. And look, just on the Cook shout as well, that as you said, Little sitting on the bench there. When Cook has Little sitting on the bench, he's averaging 59 minutes on the field, and he's only translating that to 40 GDS points, where Cook without Little, if we see Little ruled out for any reason, without Little on the bench, he's averaging 79 minutes. That's Damien Cook, and he's turning that into 68 GDS points. So yeah, if we do see a little late change, there's definitely an opportunity to get Cook into your side. And also just on the Grant matchup, the Knights, you're right, are restricting starting hookers to only 35 GDS points. So according to StatsLab, that's the 3rd hardest matchup for hookers this week.
Yeah, wow.
But if you look at the last couple of weeks, the Knights against dummy halves haven't been super solid. They allowed 67 to Pascoe round 11 and then 51 to Cook in round 10. So I think there's a bit of disparity there between some of the hookers that the Knights have faced up against across the season already, compared to someone like Harry Grant, who, as you said, he's a lot better than a lot of the other options there. So I think it's quite a simple one. Blake Brayley, is going to be out for quite a bit. So broken forearm, I believe. Any look at potentially having Jaden Beryl find a way into a side or two? There doesn't look to be too much cover outside of that in terms of that hooker role. Is he someone that you might turn to in the future and just keep an eye on him at the moment?
Keep an eye on him for sure. He's obviously very talented. Played a lot of Q Cup and, player of the season and that sort of thing. He was actually named to start at hooker, in that primetime competition when the Sharkies played. Was it last round or the round before?
Yes.
But ended up, being moved back to the bench. And look, I don't know what that thinking was, but obviously they don't see him as that 80-minute replacement for Blake Brayley for any reason. And could even see Cam McInnes maybe slot in there. He's played a lot of hooker in the past as well. So, yeah, it'd be nice to see him getting 80, and maybe this is the week that it happens. I don't see it happening, but he's definitely going to be a play in the future if you can get some consistent minutes there.
Yep, definitely. Look, before we move on and have a quick chat about point of difference, apologies to everyone. We just zoomed straight into it, forgot to give some shout outs. And look, first shout out has to go to Sif Kanga. He commented at 5:42 Australian Eastern Standard Time. Howdy, let's get rowdy. Still up the wires. They still had a great game against the Panthers. They should not be disappointed with that effort. Hopefully we can just go from strength to strength from there. Also, a massive shout out to Tracy Wall. G'day to Tracy. Thanks for joining us as well. And then the circus crew. I've seen the circus crew up and about on the leaderboards everywhere at the moment as well. So big shout out to Maddie P. Alrighty, let's just quickly have a touch on the pods. We won't talk too much into it, but Jake Simpkin is named to start. He's got the easiest matchup according to the stats. Rabbits are allowing 46.6 GDS points. Is it as simple as going with the matchup, or with Wakeham on the bench, is that just a little bit concerning?
Yeah, that's the big issue, isn't it? Obviously a talented footballer as well, but Manly are showing that they are using that two-hooker approach. And when we're getting options of guys getting 80 or close to, I think, it's easy to look past a bloke like Simpkin.
Yeah, and that's probably the same for Marnie as well. And then obviously our two fades there, Jerry Marshall-King coming off the bench. So there's no real love with him at the moment. And then Api Coruscant probably just needs to do a little bit more. The Tigers are in a little bit of all sorts at the moment, so we're not quite sure what they're going to throw up. Alrighty, let's jump straight into the middles. And look, for me, it's with Alex Twal out, it kind of means the old big three are back. We've got Haas, May and Yo as three big options through the middle, followed by another great option in Toby Couchman, who's just going from strength to strength. Is those three plus Yo definitely the four that you're looking at this week, or are you going to play something a little bit riskier and just play the three middles and look for four edges?
Yeah, I think it will be those three on screen in the strongly considers plus Isaiah Yo, a bit of safety there. But there are plenty of decent edge options as well. Some blokes that have, some pretty handy matchups, or some guys that, look like they've got some try scoring upside this week as well. So It may be around where I look to get two edges in if they've got that try scoring upside, but those four on screen plus Isaiah Yo, pretty safe in terms of minutes on the park and going to get through plenty of work. Absolutely love Terrell May, no Alex Twal. We might see 80 minutes again. He was fantastic. Payne Haas on his return. He hadn't played since round 7, but 281 running meters, 8 tackle breaks, a line break, 85 points, his best score of the season. Absolutely blitzed it in Paddy Carrigan's absence. He's going to be massive. Terrell May, no Alex Twal. Those two are absolutely lock and loads. So, Isaiah Yo, we know what we're going to get from him. But Toby Couchman, big fan of him, has put massive scores back to back all the way since round 5 after a couple of 30-point scores where we were sort of starting to put a line through him. But just recently, an 83, a 78 and a 57. And that 83 and 78 came against two pretty handy sides. Heard of them? The Penrith Panthers and the New Zealand Warriors. 57 in 66 minutes against the Broncos, 35 tackles again, over 200 running meters. That's the kind of safety and the floor that we want from a middle forward. And he's shown that he can break some tackles and offload the footy. 4 tackle breaks and 4 offloads in that game against the Warriors back in round 12.
Yeah, I love that. And look, I was looking at Couchman versus Yo because I feel like if I am going to take some risks, it's probably one of those two that drop out of the three middles there. And even if we just look at that base and power, Couchman's exceeding what Yo's putting out as well. Couchman's 40 tackles on average, 145 run meters, and then the 2 tackle breaks. You're getting 60 GDS points just in base and power. Although Couchman's not offering too much more outside of that at the moment, he's also limiting his demerits, which is really good to see. Really limiting those missed tackles and the errors. I think the average errors is less than 0.5 a game, and then the missed tackles was around 1 as well. So really good return on investment there. Yo, very similar, 36 tackles, 130 run meters, and 2 tackle breaks as well. But he's giving you that 55. I guess the only difference really is that Yo potentially could provide a little bit of attacking upside. We've seen a couple of opportunities for him throughout the season so far, with a couple of line breaks and a try there as well. So there's probably that in his side, but I think I like the consistency of Couchman over anything else. And as you rattled off those scores, it's crazy to think that he, particularly against Penrith Panthers and the Warriors, the 2 top teams in the competition at the moment, and the Dragons are sitting dead last at the moment. So you can still get plenty of fantasy value outside of the top 8 and outside the top 10 even as well. So another player that you're pretty keen on is both Xavier Willison and then Hamish Stewart as well. Talk to us about Hamish Stewart first. Why is he someone that you're having a look at as a point of difference?
He's just been super consistent, hasn't he? He's getting plenty of minutes, playing a bit of, edge and through the middle as well. 80 minutes in back-to-back matches, 64 and 54, some points similar to some of his other mates there in the Dragons pack in Toby Couchman. He's just been, really consistent. Probably a big salary sort of load up for the under-24 competition, but probably someone we can keep an eye on in the regular season, but also particularly when there are some big buys through that origin period. He's a guy that's, absolutely getting through the base and now seeing some big minutes on the park as well, averaging 51 points at 0.8 ppm, but the minutes have gone up drastically, and he's still getting through the tackles, 45 and 44 tackles playing on the edge in the past 2 weeks. He's also had a try assist and a line break assist in both of those matches as well. So a bit of attacking stats there from Hamish Stewart. I just thought that was pretty interesting, and certainly someone that will get plenty of juice in the under-24 competition.
Imagine if we end up rolling out 4 Dragons in our side this week. Cook, both Couchmans, and Hamish Stewart. That would be unreal. Alrighty, the other under-24 player that we're really keen on, he's had some really good games, is Xavier Willison. Does he factor into your full round side, or is it just someone you're pretty keen again to put some salary on in the under-24s?
Look, the numbers that he's put up without Paddy Carrigan in the side, and when he's got that number 13 on his back, it's hard to ignore. 2 games in round 7, round 8 without Paddy Carrigan. 72 and 75 minutes for a 79 and an 80 point GDS performance. 1 try, 1 line break against the Doggies. But in the 72-minute, 79-point performance, 54 tackles, 4 tackle breaks, 2 offloads, still missed 3 tackles and gave away an error, but managed to bank 79 GDS points. He'll get big minutes through the middle alongside Payne Haas. And he's been moved to an edge as well, and he's finding plenty of success late in a match against some tired or some smaller back rowers or halves, and he's really capitalizing there as well. It doesn't seem smart in the sense of we've got those big 4 that we've just talked about, and this guy could do anything, but look, the numbers don't lie, and he's even had a game in the middle last season without Paddy Carrigan, just the one. Round 18 against the Dogs, 68 minutes, 72 GDS points, all in base, 203 run meters, 4 tackle breaks, and an offload. He's done it 3 times. Can he do it again? I want to get there. I just see it ending up like a 40 or a 50, and you're feeling really underwhelmed when someone more safe, someone safer could get about a 60. But gee, I'm close. I'm tempted. He'll definitely get a spot in the under 24s with some salary.
Definitely.
Certainly in one of my big 3 teams. But I'm not sure if I can put all the faith in him in a challenger or a champ just yet.
Yeah, but those numbers are just so nice, and it just makes you think, let's get him into our sides. But that's right. Who do you replace from those blokes that we talked about? Maybe Isaiah Yo drops out, and maybe Xavier will. I couldn't bring myself to play 5 middles either. I don't think I could have all of my bench taken up by the middles as well. But I guess that's some strategy involved there, that really Willison's playing out of position. Hamish Stewart's playing out of position as well. So there's every opportunity these players go well. Look, a couple of other people have joined us. Thanks for joining us, Skip. Hopefully there's no internet issues on Stu's side. He says, hey, the bros. And then Ganners is really keen for some centers discussion today. Well, stick around, Ganners. We will definitely get there soon. Make sure you get your comments in, particularly if you've got any questions about start or sit. In terms of our fades, we've got Cameron Murray and Leo Thompson there. Is it just in terms of the workload that Cameron Murray has faced so far? He had a monster effort in Origin. Is that just the reason that you're looking to fade him, or is it just more the matchup?
Yeah, look, both players have put up some big scores in recent weeks. It just hasn't been consistent with minutes on the park. We've seen Thompson have some pretty big matches, seen Maxi King have some big matches and get some big minutes as well. I think if people sort of filter by round scores or look at recent scores, blokes like those two are going to be high up on those lists. But I'm just looking for safety this round and going for the guys that get it done week in, week out. Rather than, a bit of a flash in the pan, a big 60 or 70 1 week, and then back to a 40 odd the next week.
Yeah. And just a reminder for anyone that is listening, Patrick Carrigan and Alex Twal are both out. Patrick Carrigan is in the moon boot, and then Alex Twal, I think they said 4 to 6 weeks now for that injury. Yep. So it's a bit unfortunate for Alex Twal. So let's move on into the edge position. We've got 3 really unreal options this week for the edges in Helam Lukey, Olakau'atu and Dill Lucas. Also some really good points of difference that we'll touch on in a moment in Kai Pearce-Paul and Ryan Couchman. And then our fades. Dave Fafita finds his way back into the side after a lengthy stint on the sidelines, but we're just looking to fade him at the moment, as is Lasardi at this stage. He's been unreal so far this season, but just based on the matchup, we're potentially fading him. In terms of our strongly considered, Stu, is Dill Lucas, despite the potentially difficult matchup, is it just someone that you cannot ignore based on the numbers he's been putting up recently, probably with the likelihood that he might find his way into that New South Wales side?
Yeah, I think the Storm are vulnerable down their edges, and that left-hand side of the field for the Knights is where they'll want to get plenty of their attack. And combination from last season, we got Sharp back in the 6 and Ponga at fullback, so probably going to go back there and back there frequently. We've finally seen some more attack from Dill Lucas. 5 tries in his past 4 matches, 2 there against the Eels, almost raised the ton with a 97-point performance. Broke 4 tackles, made 46 tackles, got through plenty of run meters. That's the type of Dill Lucas that we want to see. That score still would have been massive, over 60, without the 2 tries and 2 line breaks. Just hadn't quite been as consistent. A few 40s and 30s that had been quite underwhelming. So I don't mind that matchup with the Storm, particularly down that potentially sort of weaker edge, or where the Knights sort of have a bit more success there. And if he can get his hands on some footy and create some or get through some space like we saw him do last week, I think he'll score nicely as well. He's obviously very close to Origin as well, so he'll want to put in a big performance here against a number of those Queenslanders, and that might just solidify a spot for him in that side.
Yeah, and you just go back and watch that footage from the game on the weekend, and that first try that he scored, the footwork that he had, and just the speed for an edge back row. And I was listening to the game, and the commentators were talking about his early years in rugby league and how he was a centre throughout most of the early time, and he's transitioned into that role really nicely. And so we obviously still have some of that speed and some of that skill and footwork. So it's great to see that he's going from strength to strength, and he's definitely someone that I'm going to get into my side. The other person that I'm really keen on is actually Helam Lukey this week up against the Finns. The Finns are allowing an average of 53 to right edges, over the past month. They've got previous scores down that right edge of 67, 73, and 64 in that past month. He's on absolute fire. The concern, though, is when you start looking a bit deeper to some of his scores, there's a bit of a pattern emerging. Since round 6, he's scored over 60 GDS points, but that's only when he's crossed over for a try. If he goes tryless in a game, Helam Lukey scores below 40 GDS points, reaching as low as 25 earlier in the season. A little bit concerning. The Dolphins, obviously, they spend more time on their attack at training than they do in the defence. They do tend to allow tries more through the middle as well, rather than on the edges. So it might be this matchup. If I do end up playing Helam Lukey based on the data and based on how he's performing at the moment, it might be one of those matchups, though, where I'm sort of hiding behind the couch, watching, hoping that Lukey crosses the line so that he does get that 60-plus score. Is that data there? Is that pattern just too much for you to get to Helam Lukey this week?
No, I don't mind it. I think there's going to be plenty of points there between the Cowboys and Dolphins, two very attacking sides. Going to be up there in North Queensland as well. So, yeah, when there's plenty of attack happening, when the game's at a top speed, that's when the blokes like Hill and Lukey sort of succeed. We've seen Xavier Willison in the past, score those sort of soft tries on the edge at the back end of the game, and that's what we've seen from Lukey as well. I think he's a good shout. I'm not going to get there in all of my sides. I'm definitely considering him a bit more after you're being so high on him. But yeah, that Dolphins Cowboys game has points written all over it, and a little short ball close to the line, and Lukey's just about unstoppable.
And he's similar mould to Jeremiah Nanai and what they were doing with the high ball as well. And Helam Lukey can get up there and take a ball out of the sky. So there's plenty of options for him to score. All right, that third one there on our list, Hamole Olakuatu, is that just a really simple play based on the dominance that he's had at NRL level, although he wasn't quite up to standard for New South Wales?
Yeah, a bit of a flat track bully in NRL land, isn't he? Couldn't quite get the job done there against the Maroons, suffered a pretty serious cramp there toward the end of the match, and subsequently sat out that last fixture. He should be raring to go for the Seagulls, and yeah, just so damaging. The form that he put up leading into Origin was insane. I don't quite read too much into that Origin performance. It was subpar, but he'll be better for that run. And look, his average of close to 65 and massive PPM, heap of tries already, plenty of tackle breaks, 17 across his last two outings for the Manly Seagulls. Look, you've got to get him to your side, I think, and Fogarty's just going to keep using him, and that combination's just going to go from strength to strength.
Yeah, definitely. And the Rabbits are allowing 42 down that right edge in the past month. The key for me, though, is Lukey scoring 73 the last game. As well as that, David Fifita comes back and will defend down that left edge for the Bunnings. And across his 5 games that Fifita played at the start of the season, he missed an average of 3 tackles per game. So we know Olakuatu likes to rake in the tackle breaks and potentially run over the top of blokes. So there's an opportunity there for Ola to run over the top of Fifita for sure. Let's get to a comment quickly before we jump into our pods. Ganners has asked, is there any love for the monster in Huddy Young? Is he someone that you're looking at as well? Is he a cheeky pod that you have wanted to keep on the down low? Or is it just simply based on the matchup, we're not really keen for him this week?
Nah, yeah, he's always going to be a good shout when he takes the field. Probably not in my must consider. Probably not much of a pod either, because he is averaging pretty well, and he had a massive Origin performance as well. So he's sort of in that sort of middle area where, yeah, if you play him, he's going to go well for you. If you fade him, you might live to regret it, but he might also return that 40 or 50 point score without too many attacking stats. And let's be honest, the Raiders have been well below what we sort of come to expect from them, or where they were last season, and that's resulted in Huddy's performances as well. Hasn't quite scored the tries that we saw him score last season, and that's reflected in his average so far, averaging just a tick over 50, and just the 3 tries so far this season. I think we saw him score 3 doubles back to back in pretty quick succession in the first sort of 2 months of last season, just not quite getting through the same amount of tackle breaks. Great footballer. On his day, he'll score plenty of points, and yeah, not a bad shout by any means. Just probably a few blokes maybe ahead of him this round.
Yeah, I tend to agree. All right, talk to me about Kai Pearce-Paul. The Tigers up against the Panthers this weekend. There's plenty of times that we've said on this pod, if there's any players up against the Panthers, we're probably just going to fade them. But Kai Pearce-Paul is someone that you're keen to get into your side.
Yeah, not so much keen to get into the side, just someone that could provide some really nice point of difference for someone that doesn't maybe own, an Olakuatu card, or Helam Lukey, or Dill Lucas is playing in a different competition maybe. Just because of the matchup against Penrith Panthers, it's easy to ignore that, but we have seen plenty of success there down that right edge, and that bigger mobile body, Kai Pearce-Paul, who can offload the footy through 8 offloads 3 matches ago against the Storm, running at Little Blaze. You'd probably expect a bit of a mismatch there, and if the Tigers are to go any decent, it's probably going to be through that matchup there. So yeah, I can see him having a bit of a day out there against Blaze. But look, it's his missed tackles last week. I actually had him in a few of my sides, thinking his matchup there against the Doggies would have been pretty handy. Bailed out by a try assist and a line break assist, but the 6 missed tackles minus 18 points there is not what you want from your edge back rower. Still getting through plenty of work, but just probably not finding the attacking stats in that match that we want. He scored a 72 and a 75 midway through the season. We thought, here we go, he's on a roll with some big scores. come back to earth a little bit. If you want to go something super different this round, not a lot of people are going to play him, but the matchup definitely suits.
Yeah, definitely. Look, someone that might come in contention for a lot of teams, particularly under 24, but maybe even the full slate, is that man Ryan Couchman that we touched on earlier. He's fast becoming this really viable option on the edge each and every week. It doesn't matter really if the Dragons win or lose. We've seen plenty of losses from the Dragons. They finally had a win, and Ryan's still pumping out consistent 60s in as many minutes as well. Particularly now, he's kind of cemented that spot with the 13 on his back. So I think it's definitely someone that I'm getting into my under 24 comp, and it potentially could be someone that I play in a couple of my pod teams. The Sharks are allowing an average of 55 GDS points to locks in the past 5 games this season. So there's definitely a vulnerability there. It's just about whether we can get the ceiling from Ryan Couchman now and whether we can see a little bit more from him, or is it a similar mold to his brother and it's just all base and power. So for me, he's probably just outside the sort of top 4 or 5, purely based on that ceiling that we're going to have from him. Looking at that 55 GDS points, if he can get around that and get above that 60 that he's been getting the past few weeks, then he's definitely someone that I want to have a look at for the full round.
Yeah, copy paste what we said. Toby Couchman, Hamish Stewart, very similar mold. Plenty of minutes, plenty of responsibility through the middle of the field. Really nice, strong PPM as well. I don't think you can go wrong if you're stuck playing a Ryan Couchman, particularly if you want a middle forward playing on field, but in your edge position on GameDay Squad.
Definitely. And look, just one more point of difference. Max Plath shapes up as a really good edge pod. He's named at hooker to start for the Finns. Obviously, Jeremy Marshall-King is on the pine. He's on the bench, but we've seen that occur twice already this season. Round 10 and round 11, Plath remained on the field in both of those games for 70-plus minutes, I think 71 and 72. And both occasions, even with JMK moving back into that dummy half role, we know Plath can move back to that lock role and sort of produce similar numbers. In those games, he's averaging 55. So across those 2 games where JMK did come on the field, he averaged 55 GDS points. He averaged 37 tackles, 110 running meters, and 2 tackle breaks as well in that. So there's plenty of opportunity for Max Plath. He's also showed some pretty good attacking prowess. Last week, he just dummied and slipped through about 3 or 4 tacklers and ended up under the post for a try. So there's plenty of opportunity. The Cowboys are the second easiest matchup for hookers as well. So I think Max Plath could be someone that, as you said, if you don't have some of those cards that we mentioned and you do have a Max Plath sitting there and you love watching the way that he plays, because I certainly do, he's someone that you could get into your side.
Yeah, and was super impressive in Origin too, wasn't
definitely. Alrighty, in terms of our fades, as I said, Fafita, Lasardi, just the matchup for me, both of them. Fafita coming back, I just want to have a watch. And then Lasardi, the left edge against the Knights, they're only allowing 32 GDS points. And I'd suggest that he's going to be on the left with Clark lining up on the right again. So I think just the Knights are too strong down that edge at the moment, even though he's a bit of a powerhouse. Alrighty, let's jump into the next position. Remember our halves, we've got 2 on field and we've got 1 on the bench. We've got 3 strongly considered, although we've got some contention here between those. We've got Nathan Cleary, obviously, Jamal Fogarty, and then Izzy Katoa. Our points of difference is Lockie Galvin and Adam Reynolds. And then our fades is Blaze Talangi for obvious reasons, and then Ethan Strange coming off a massive week of footy as well. Remember, we've got injuries to Nico Hines and Tom Dearden, so don't put them into your side. Let's jump past Cleary. We don't need to talk about Cleary at all, but is Jamal Fogarty going to be pairing with Nathan Cleary for you?
Yeah, he will. I don't like the fact that he's not kicking goals anymore.
Yeah.
Obviously, a really nice score there against the Sharkies. Just gone for those that played him, 620 kick meters, if you don't mind. Absolutely insane amount of points there off the boot. Scored a nice try, a couple of try assists there as well. But look, that score could have been anything with plenty of goals there as well. Ruben Garrick, come on, mate, give the tee back to big man Fogues. But it was the 50 and the 40 in the weeks previous that, against 2 sides that you sort of thought the Sea Eagles and Fogarty would score well against. They still scored plenty of points, but just the 50 and the 40 points against those sides, the goal kicking factor is really impacting him. He could have had an easy 15, 18, 21 extra points in a couple of those fixtures. And we're talking about 40s and 50s into 60s and 70s, and he would have had 3 back-to-back 70 or 80 point games. So, the ceiling, unfortunately, isn't as high as it may be, but still getting through, plenty of work. He's still pretty handy when, other halves aren't jumping out of the ground. I'm happy to go with him despite, not kicking goals.
Yeah, that's the tough thing. They're averaging 5 tries a match, the Sea Eagles. And so we're missing out on that potential 15 points. But hopefully he can just maintain that base and power that we've seen with that a little bit of attacking upside. As you said, 620 kicking meters. We talked about a couple of weeks ago. It's so bizarre that these place kickers are getting the tee taken off them with a soft tissue injury, but they're still kicking that many meters. I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me at all. But fingers crossed, we see in the warm up Fogarty taking some kicks at goal, and we can get those points back in. All right, the contention here for us. You are leaning towards Adam Reynolds at the moment. I'm leaning towards Izzy Katoa. Do you want to talk us through why potentially Adam Reynolds might be the better half out of those two this week?
Oh, I don't necessarily think he will be the better. Just the matchup for me, obviously going head to head there, the Bronx were woeful last week. They were embarrassed by a side that hadn't won in 3 months of footy, or even heading back to last year as well. So they're definitely going to want to atone for that. And it sort of starts there with the senior guys, blokes like Adam Reynolds, and he's going to have to step up and have a decent game there. I think the Broncos do bounce back, and he's going to kick some goals. He'll have his hands in some try assists. Actually hasn't had a try assist in his last month of footy. Still scoring a 63, a 54, a 41, and a disappointing 6 in 44 minutes against the Roosters. But some handy scores there without a try assist. So he's getting it done in other areas of the field. The Bronx just aren't clicking at the moment. Maybe with Payne Haas back, he can go back to some of his bigger scores because the boys are rolling through the middle a bit more. So hopefully he can do a little bit off the back of Haas and Xavier Willison. But yeah, look, when you're sitting someone like Jaden Campbell for old man Reynolds, it could be a disaster waiting to happen. So I liked it at the start of the week when I was looking at matchups and that sort of thing. I'm loving it even less and less as the week goes on. So I'll probably chicken out of the Adam Reynolds play. But wouldn't surprise me if he puts up, a solid 60.
Yeah, interesting. You mentioned JC. We've got Circus Crew, who is running the Jaden Campbell with Clarity and Fogarty, and as is Sif Kanga as well. He said any love for Clifford or JC, and I think it's probably going to be Jaden Campbell over Reynolds for me. Probably just underneath Izzy Katoa at the moment for me as well. But Jaden Campbell, as you said, that matchup against the Broncos on the opposite side, Atkinson just scored 52, 53 points against the Broncos. And we know Jaden Campbell is a lot better than that. And we've seen some 60s earlier in the season from Walker and Burton, etc. So I think there's every opportunity for JC to have a big game. But for me, I think I'm just liking the matchup that the Finns have up against the Cowboys, and in particular, what Izzy Katoa is going to bring to that matchup. The Cowboys have leaked plenty of points to right halves all season, allowing an average of 62 GDS points, making it the third easiest matchup this weekend. We know Katoa doesn't really have a position on the field. Let's be honest. We see him on the right side. He pops up on the left and makes that really great connection with Nikorima, and that try assist that he had where Nikorima swept around the back of him and it was a little short ball. The no-look, it was just absolute magic. You couldn't get something any more beautiful in the game of rugby league than that. But it's great to see that his partner in crime is back in Nikorima. He also leads a host of big names returning for the Dolphins in a big game where, as you said, they're travelling up to North Queensland. They want to make a mark on this competition. They are one of the best teams to watch at the moment and support. They're starting to get me around to quickly becoming an absolute Dolphins fan because of their attacking prowess. And I think Katoa is the big reason for that. So I think based on the matchup, based on what they're going to throw out at the Cowboys, and look, you just have to go back to last week's game and have a look at how poor the Cowboys were across the whole park against your boys, the Raiders. And that's taking nothing away from the Raiders. They were really good, but the Cowboys just were not in that game at all. And I think the Finns with the week off, all of their boys back from Origin and coming back from injury as well with Herbie Farmworth, etc. I think it's going to be a big game for the Finns.
Yeah, we've targeted that Cowboys matchup pretty frequently on this show, obviously, getting that right half against the Cowboys left edge. So, yeah, definitely can't go wrong there. I don't think with Izzy Katoa, just down on his performance this year. I think we had him in contention as a strongly consider quite often throughout last season. And, he had some base stats sort of comparable to the likes of Cleary and Hines in terms of his tackles, his run meters, his kick meters, that sort of thing. Sort of well down on the averages at the moment, hovering down there below 50 at 46 above him. But look, if he's going to have a big match, he's definitely capable of it. It's probably the week where the matchup suits, and it's just Cowboys left edge all day.
Yeah, definitely. And just quickly, Ganners has asked, love for Trindle without Nico Hines there. We obviously saw the big game from Trindle last weekend over against the Seagulls. Is that someone that you're going back to again potentially, or do you think that that's not going to be replicated?
Oh, how do you trust a bloke that can put up single-digit numbers? It's just the most scary proposition ever. I honestly, if I play Trindle in one of my main three teams, I'm not watching the game. I'm going out and I'm booking a nice dinner or going to the movies and putting the phone away and just hoping and praying that he returns a decent score. Look, to be honest, he has been pretty decent this season. Look, one game with no Nico straight away, a huge score. I don't think he's going to have it all his way for too long, but the matchup against the Dragons is something that are going to find pretty difficult to ignore as well. Just having a look at some numbers quickly of some matches without Nico Hines. Obviously, only the one game so far this season without Nico. Didn't play without him in the side last season. So we have to go back to 2024. The numbers were okay. Plenty of 40s, couple of 30s, had a 60 and an 80 in there as well. It's the goal kicking that really boosts those numbers. Yep. So, look, even if he doesn't get too many try assists, if you think the side is going to score plenty of points, at least he's going to go up in plenty of goals as well, because he was kicking them pretty decently. So, yeah, definitely not a bad option whatsoever. Just doesn't fill me with the confidence. But, yeah, look, I think those are the decisions that you have to make to separate yourself from the pack. And the more and more I think about it, the more I'm going to have to throw a Trindle into one of my teams, I think. Can you get there?
I can't get there, but I have a theory about some of his single-digit games, and I reckon that we'll have to go back. I don't know for sure, but my theory is that Will Kennedy has stolen a bunch of points from him in those single-digit games, because if you look at those two from behind, they have the same haircut, they have the same running style. I reckon the stats have got involved there, and they've accidentally given Will Kennedy a whole bunch. So I'm going to go back and have a bit of a comparison between those two, and I reckon there's a bit of a theme there. Alrighty, in terms of points of difference, Lockie Galvin shapes as a definite option, obviously for your under 24 side for sure. If you can get him into your full slate side, it's all about that matchup. The Eels are allowing 63 GDS points to right halves this season. And Galvin, although there's been plenty of talk around the positioning and his play and what is going on between Critter and Galvin and Burton, but he still is putting up points in GDS terms. Is that someone that you're locking straight into your under 24 side more so than anything?
Oh, absolutely. And he's been a staple just about every single round in that competition. It's just the goal kicking that separates, the non-goal kicking halves with the halves that do goal kick. It's no secret that the top halves in GDS are all the goal kickers: Cleary, Hines, Campbell. Tamari Martin's had the T lately, Tanner Boyd, Jamal Fogarty. Tommy Dearden is the first non-goal kicker, averaging 58, which is incredible. Averaging just above Clifford, but then Galvin not too far below Dearden with 53. Still a respectable average, absolutely. But yeah, it's just the goal kicking that definitely lowers that floor. And he's been, in terms of GDS, well above Izzy Katoa this season. Both of them without the kicking tee. Katoa obviously going to get it not too long. Galvin kicking would be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And look, just quickly on the fades, Ethan Strange, is he someone that you're just happy to put a line through based on the matchup? The Roosters obviously quite strong, only allowing 40 points to right halves, but also the last week and a half that Strange has had, he's obviously had a big New South Wales game, and then he's come across and had a pretty big game for the Raiders as well. Is it just probably catching up to him a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Probably a down game here for, if not the Raiders, then probably certainly Ethan Strange. Plenty of other halves we can put our faith in if there's a matchup that you want to avoid at the moment. It's a creative half there against the Roosters.
Yeah, definitely. Alrighty, let's jump into the centres, and plenty of talk around the centres. The big return is Herbie Farnworth, obviously. The second big return is Tola Kula. He has been cleared, I believe, to play after the HIA that occurred in the Queensland versus New South Wales competition. Is it just straight into the side for those two, or is there some love for Casey McLean, who's starting to become a really good option and is one of our strongly considered?
Yeah, Casey McLean has, obviously very talented, very, very young player, sort of not getting the GDS points that you'd probably expect after seeing, how dominant the Penrith Panthers have been and the role that he sort of plays in the side. But even his 15 or 20 minutes in Origin the other night, he looked unreal, and he sort of brought that form to the Panthers as well. And he's a guy, when the matchup suits, that can absolutely tear apart a weekend, and probably more so a point of difference, given, Cooler and Herbie are going to be two really popular guys, and we can only really play two centers. We probably don't want to play a third on our bench. So I feel like they'll be heavily played. If you want to get different in terms of, like we've got on screen there, Toya or Stags, I think Casey McLean is the closest strongly consider. That'll probably end up being a bit of a pod. But no, for me, it's Herbie. It's Cooler back to the left center. He's enjoyed that spot. He's played better footy there. Disappointed with how he finished that Origin match, but yeah, if he's cleared and good to go, I quite like his speed match up there against that right side of the Bunnies.
Yeah, definitely. And look, it's great to see Herbie Farnworth back. The Cowboys aren't a super easy matchup on paper when you're looking at that full season, but you just have to go back to that last game. Seb Chris dropped 63 against them last week in the same spot. And let's be honest, Herbie's just absolutely matchup proof, and we're going to go to him every single time. And then Cooler, we're hoping he, as I said, should have that clearance for the HIA. He's been named back in that left center spot, as you said. The Rabbits are allowing an average of 43 GDS points to left centers. That's the fifth best matchup for any side or down that side of the field this week. And it's significantly more than the opposite side of the field. They give up a lot less to the right side centers in attack. And that's why Garrick is actually sitting on our fade list at the moment. The matchup there is the Rabbits only allowing 35 GDS points. So I think Cooler's definitely option there. Someone that we've talked a lot about, and he's been in a lot of teams over the last few weeks, is Tommy Chester, and Sif Kanga is playing Tom Chester along with Farnsey. Is Tom Chester someone that we are just not going to go to this week because of the matchup, even though he has some really good base and power stats, irrespective of what we've seen so far in terms of the matchups?
Yeah, you're right. He does provide safety in that centre position. If you're unsure about Cooler getting some attack there against the Bunnies, Chester is probably a safer play, but I think McLean, Stags and Toya both all provide a bit more upside there. Chester's excellent, just hasn't quite seen the attack that blokes like Herbie and Cooler and even McLean can get when things go right. I think there'll still be plenty of points in that game. So if you do run out of Tommy Chester, there's every chance he can find the line or get a try assist. So it's not a fade, or it's not a bad play by any means. Probably just looking at a few other guys, but no, he's certainly in the mix still. One down game doesn't mean you put a line through him. He's certainly playable.
And that's it. You look at that game with the Cowboys, and really everyone had a down game. So it's probably better to just put a line through that game against the Raiders and have a look at the rest of the season and what Chester has produced so far this season. As you touched on, Stags, definitely a point of difference for us. And it's probably purely just based on the matchup that he's got there against, I'm now calling the Titans the middle brother. Because obviously we've got the younger brother in the Dolphins as well. So we're calling them the middle brother. They're giving up 50 GDS points to right centers this season. And Stags, a similar mold to, I guess, the Adam Reynolds conversation around the veterans of the team, the leaders of the side needing to stand up after that dismal performance last week. And I think Stags is going to be one of those players. Now that he's got that New South Wales gig, at least for another game, with Latrell Mitchell ruled out of the second game as well, although McLean did not give up that opportunity either. There's potential for him to take that over. But I think with that in mind, I think Stags is going to have a big game here and just provide everyone the reminder that this is who I am and this is how I play. And I think as a result, we're going to be rewarded with some decent points from Tony Stags.
Yeah, he'll certainly have some big blow-up games. You just got to be able to pick the time, because he'll pump out 30s and 40s pretty frequently, but then, get a 70 or an 80, and then you want to look at playing him, but he goes back to some middling scores. So yeah, if he's going to pop off, it's probably this game with a pretty nice matchup there against the Titans. So yeah, if you like him as a pod, certainly in a bit of form and running on a high after a pretty decent game there against in Origin, despite sort of killing it with 12-man ender against Cody Capewell.
Yeah, I went to this corresponding game last year, Broncos versus Titans at Suncorp Stadium, a Sunday afternoon, and I'm pretty sure there was something like 70 points almost put on in this game. So hopefully we can get something similar between these two, because look, Stags does love to have a big game up against either the Titans or the Dolphins. So hopefully we can see that happen. Look, the other player on our point of difference is Robert Toya, again coming off the Origin arena, and then also that game on the weekend against the Storm. Is that someone that is just a good option, that there's nothing really too much either way of playing him or not playing him? You've just got better options ahead of Robbie Toya.
Yeah, better options, but certainly someone, if the Roosters do get on a roll and he can score a try or two. The reason why I've got him there as a point of difference is we may have the return of Nwangani Tuase, and scores with Marky Mark can sometimes be a little bit higher there if he just simply needs to catch and pass, and Marky Mark does the rest there. So named in the 23 jersey, Marky Mark, if he does get a start there on the right-hand side, I think the Roosters are going to be too strong for the Raiders left edge. And let's be honest, their centre defence has been pretty poor. Timiko's had to swap sides of the field. Dane Laurie's back in there this week, made a mountain of tackles at lock, but plays his probably 4th or 5th position of the season so far. There's no stability there whatsoever in the centre position. So, Toya probably could feast there if things go the Roosters' way.
Yeah, definitely. And just a reminder, injuries, suspensions, etc. Jake Averillo, Bradman Best, Kale Ero, and Adam Dewey are all out, so don't get them into your side. Aurelie, let's jump across to wingers. And once again, we've got some really good options, and our 3 strongly considered, plus a couple of points of difference. We've got 3 out-of-position players, names at fullback, but can be played in the wing position for GDS, and that's Suafai Longo, Clayton Falalo, and Jacob Carraz. Are those 3 the 3 main players that you're looking at, Stu, or is there some others involved there as well?
No, it certainly is those 3, although you sort of broke my heart a little bit earlier today, relaying some news that Jacob Carraz may be unlikely for Monday. So those that are keen on Carraz and seeing his 2 back-to-back big scores playing at fullback will need to keep an ear out for any news. And the hard thing is they play on an island game on Monday, meaning we might not get any news till Sunday, and by then it might be too late to pivot. And look, you might be stuck with a Natto car or something like that. But I think the word was actually Carraz wasn't healthy in the warm-up last week, sort of tweaked a calf a little bit. Tracy had been omitted from that squad, so they sort of looked around and didn't really have an option, and he came from the field with about 5 to go. The score was still in the balance, so you probably expect it to be a little bit worse if he had to come off when the game was super close. So yeah, with that news coming out today that he may be unlikely, on top of what was reported pre-game last week, then I think Carraz will end up being a point of difference if you stick him in your side and he does take the field Monday, because I think I might pivot to one of those other strongly considers there, even Greggy Marju, with a pretty soft matchup there against the defensively poor Melbourne right edge. I don't think I can keep a Carraz there until Monday. I wish he was playing Friday. That would make life so much easier.
It is a calf concern, and he did sit out training yesterday. So we'll keep an eye on it, and if we get any word, we'll definitely pass that through. But yeah, like you said, playing on Monday, there's no real pivot option unless you really like Josh Adokar, which I know that we do not. So I'm not really keen to get Jacob Carraz into my side, because I don't want to have that 0 definitely there. But the person I do love is Greggy Marju, and I think he's going to get another run on my team this week. I played him last week and I was pretty happy with his result. He's been super dominant down that left wing for the Knights. And really, I think that the attack's going to go down that left this week again, purely because Sharp's back in the halves. So I expect some big things down that left edge.
Yep.
Plenty of opportunities down that side, and plenty of really good attacking footy happening at the Knights at the moment. He's also got a really good plus matchup, Greg Marshall with the Storm. They're allowing almost 50 GDS points to left wingers this season. The Storm are also allowing 44% of their tries against them happening down that left side of the field, their right side defensively. So there's obviously some concerns there. There's some defensive issues, and I think Greg Marju and the rest of the Knights team are going to look at exploiting those. So, look, even if Greggy doesn't cross the line, we know he can rack up base and power. Last month alone, he's averaged 230 running meters and almost 6 tackle breaks per game. So, although he doesn't get many tackles out on the wing, I think there's plenty of opportunity for him to rack up those tackle breaks and the running meters. So, yeah, lock him into my side along with Suafalonga, who's just an absolute freak. The Knights are allowing 58 to fullbacks as well, but I don't think it matters with the matchup for Sua. He is able to do things that no other bloke can do.
No Nick Meaney in the side either. We saw him kick goals. Let's hope that continues again. Munster and Harry Grant have obviously had a try in the past, and gee, they were pretty woeful as well. So I think they've defaulted there to Sua. And look, if you've got a fullback kicking goals that you can play on the wing in a side that's finally putting things together, made the grand final last year. Yeah, look, I think Sua's pretty decent default there. That already decent score just has a higher ceiling now with the goal kicking duties.
Yeah, and then Clayton Fa'alolo, we've played him a couple of times with some great return. Is that another player that you're keen to get in your side? There's a pretty plus matchup there with the Rabbitohs as well, allowing 48 to fullbacks. Is that someone that you're keen to get in, or he's probably just outside the top 3?
Yeah, just outside for me. Very impressive there at fullback. You didn't really think that he could translate into a fullback. Obviously, don't know too much about his background or his history where he did play, but a handy footballer on the wing, could finish some tries. But he's looked at home at fullback, and look, Manly haven't really missed a beat despite Tommy Turbo going down with Foz stepping in there. He's been unreal at the back. So yeah, look, he's been a good play. Coaches that have played him have been rewarded pretty nicely over the last month or so. Just not for me this round.
And just quickly on the fades, we've got Tommy Jenkins there and AJ. Tom Jenkins, the Tigers are only allowing 28 GDS points to the left wing. I brought up the stat last week for the Sunday Showdown with the difference between right and left wingers, and Alamotti had 2 tries down that side and Jenkins scored very little. So I'm fading Jenkins there, and then AJ as well, with the likelihood of a tough matchup against the Sea Eagles. Alrighty, let's jump into fullbacks, and there's a bit of dilemma here. We've kind of got a head scratcher in terms of our third fullback. Obviously, Kalen Ponga and Reece Walsh are straight into our sides. They've got really plus matchups. But it's that third fullback, as I said, James Tedesco, Dylan Edwards, Keanu Kinney as well. Can you talk me into or out of any of those in particular?
No, I can't, because I still don't know which way I'm going to go either. It's probably going to be between Teddy or Dylan Edwards. I think, after watching Dylan Edwards in recent weeks, he's been pretty handy, more consistent than he had showed sort of through the start and the middle of the season. Following that 100 against the Knights back in round 8, he's followed that up with 3 60s in the next 4 matches as well. So yeah, look, I think he's the guy that probably provides a little bit more security. The matchup there with the Tigers is a +1 as well. We know that fullbacks can score pretty well there against the Titans too. The Panthers are a red-hot football side. He's obviously still pretty dirty about not making the Origin team. If anything does happen to Teddy in the next couple of rounds or anything, Dylan Edwards will want to be in a bit of form, so he's a shoe-in for selection, and he's certainly been playing some good footy in recent weeks. So it's the matchup, the team he plays for, and I don't know. It's just that third position is just too tough for me at the moment.
Yeah, and I think I am going to lean the way of Edwards as well, purely based on, as you said, what he's done recently. The Tigers allowing an average of 48 to fullbacks this season, but they just allowed 91 to Carraz and 63 to Fa'alolo in the past 2 weeks, who, as we touched on, they're not legit fullbacks. Well, maybe Fa'alolo's fast becoming a legit fullback, but what will Edwards do as an out-and-out fullback who's played that role for a long period of time with a Panthers side that seemingly unstoppable? They're looking really good. They're looking really solid. Even with a number of key players out, they really took it to the Warriors last week, and it was a really great game there. So I think Edwards is probably the lock there. It's the fading of Teddy, I think, is going to be the big one. The Raiders restricting fullbacks to 40 GDS points over the past month, with the likes of Drinkwater, Edwards, and Kinney failing to reach 50 GDS points. So that's quite a telling stat when you've got some really elite footballers. Kinney's obviously working his way there, but Drinkwater and Edwards, who we know can score really well, they're not getting to those heights that we want them to. And outside of Origin, really, Teddy's last 2 weeks of NRL output have been pretty dismal, 33 and 17 GDS points the last couple of weeks. So is it simple as fading Teddy, or even though we say he's almost matchup proof, there's just not the runs on the board at the moment over the last month?
Look, maybe that's what makes him become a bit of a pod this week because of the two down games. He's certainly going to bounce back at some point and put a big score on the board at some point. If people are a bit shy or hesitant to get to him like we sort of are at the moment, it could be the play to get on him because obviously his track record pretty handy. Obviously, if this game wasn't at Canberra, I'd probably be a bit more keen on the Roosters. If the Raiders had to travel there on Monday night, I think it could be a field day there for the Roosters, but maybe that brings the game a little bit closer. Probably a bit of pod value there because of his output. So yeah, maybe he is a play in at least one side, and I don't think I can play three teams without at least getting to James Tedesco once.
No. Yeah, I agree. It's hard to not put him into at least one side, and look, quite a few are going that way as well. Sif Kanga is playing Teddy, Ponga, and Edwards. And then Circus Crew, Matty P is very similar to us, is just dossing up between Edwards and Teddy, and then Tracy Wall is leaning the way of Edwards at the moment. So it is quite divisive. We haven't got a real answer there. So hopefully we might get some Stats Lab percentage played, and we might put those up as well to see and help people make those decisions. And then on the fade side, we've got Jai Gray, who returns, as does Dream Buller, both potential to play in the under 24 competition, but I think it's just based on the matchup. The Panthers and Seagulls are restricting fullbacks to less than 45. It's just, I think I'm not going to play them in any competition at all based purely on those matchups.
Yeah, not keen either, but let's talk about Walsh very quickly. Just the fact that Ezra Mam not in the side, and that actually paints a pretty nice picture for Reece Walsh, obviously coinciding with how good he was at the back end of last year, and maybe that was a completely different Reece Walsh to who we see at this part of the season. But we can't ignore the 500s that he scored back-to-back from round 24 to the preliminary final there against the Raiders. All were without Ezra Mam on the field. We know that he scores well without Adam Reynolds, but it was a pretty similar picture there without Ezra Mam. If Mam does stay on the bench and Duffy is that second half there, that might mean Reece Walsh does get unlocked because Ezra Mam maybe doesn't take the line on, doesn't make those poor options. Maybe it's just early ball to Reece Walsh and he can do his thing with a bit of extra time and sort of not having to panic too much. Gee, those numbers at the back end of last season are pretty to look at, coinciding with no Ezra Mam. He's definitely a strong play for me this round.
And one of the key things, I think, was that Walsh was getting his hands on the ball early and he had time and space to be able to make decisions. Whereas when we see him sweeping around the back, getting the ball late, it's often an error because he's trying to push that pass too much. And so, get more first receiver, second receiver ball to Reece Walsh, please, for the fantasy gods. Look, just on that, Titans allow 50 GDS points at the moment to fullbacks. So Reece Walsh, great matchup there. Storm allow 50 GDS points as well. So Ponga is in a similar boat. Obviously, Ponga's got the kicking tee as well, and there's plenty of points in that game, I think. Alrighty, let's jump in and have a look at our Consensus Stats Lab primetime competition. Remember, the Stats Lab an ongoing supporter of the Fantasy Bros. Make sure you head over to the statslab.app. Check out all their awesome tools. We used a bunch of them today to get our stats and to talk through some of our key players. They've got player stats from every game. They've got the matchup strength, player comparisons, plus plenty of analysis tools to help dominate your GameDay Squad team. So make sure you check them out. That's statslab.app. You can see our team here, pretty consistent. A lot of top performers in their position. We've got Reece Robson, and then outside of him, we've got Cam Murray and Udik Amanu with Joe Tarpany locking the scrum. Then we've got Dill Lucas and Zach Hosking. You could either put Hudson Young, who we spoke about earlier, there as well. In our halves, we've got Fogarty and Jerome Hughes. And then our backs in the centre, we've got Tola Kula and Robert Toya, who we've spoken about at length. Then at the back, we've got Farlongo and Greggy Marju with Kalen Ponga at fullback. Remember, that is the starting 13. We don't have our bench showing there. And then across to our consensus team for the round. These are all the guys we've talked about. We've lent into the Pasco pod potentially as just the low ownership as our hooker for the week. We've also got Toby Couchman and Payne Haas with Tyrrell May locking the scrum. Helam Lukey and Olakuatu either side of them on the edge. Then our halves are Jamal Fogarty and Nathan Cleary. Our centres are Herbie Farmworth and Tola Kula, as we spoke about. And then our wingers, Farlongo and Greggy Marju with Kalen Ponga. So a lot of the similar players across the primetime and your consensus starting team there. So you're going to have to make sure you mix and match your rarities as best as possible if you are following along with a lot of our positional plays. Alrighty, jumping into BroDown Showdown. And I think this is something we haven't done very much. Oh, yeah, we've got to talk about the results first. Stu got one up on me. Remember the State of Origin version of BroDown Showdown? We combined our scores. So Plath and Tedesco outscored Cotter and To'o. Even if we went head-to-head with each position, I think you won both matchups quite convincingly. I think maybe the Tedesco To'o one was a little bit closer, but congratulations, you are back in line with me now. I think that's 7-all between us, and you broke serve again. So we're back to even Stevens. But as I was saying, one thing we haven't really done for a long time is have very few who commented and won. And we actually only had 2 people comment Stu. Out of everyone that commented, it was just the 2 of them. So instead of spinning the wheel, we are going to give a prize to both Mian G and Tracy Wall. So I'm going to open a 9-player rare pack. And the way it's going to work is Stu's going to pick 1 row for Mian, 1 row for Tracy, and then Stu is going to take the last row. So good luck to those people. Congratulations for jumping in and commenting. Remember, when we put up our BroDown Showdown in a moment, all you need to do is comment who you think is going to win the BroDown Showdown, and you can be in with a chance to win some unreal cards, just like Mian and Tracy. Stu, can you see that pack on screen?
Sure can.
Beauty. All right, here we go. Good luck, everyone involved. All righty, rare 9-player pack. Stu, we'll go Mian first. Which row is Mian going to take?
We'll make this nice and simple. Mian top row, Tracy middle row, Stu bottom row.
Perfect. All right, Mian, you've got a Leilua gold, Frizzle gold, and a Donahue plat. Tracy going with the middle. We've got a Morgan Knowles gold, Jamie Humphreys gold, and then a Damien Cook gold that could be useful this weekend. And Stu, rounding it out, you've got a Bostock, Simonson, and a Blake Steep plat. So make sure Mian and Tracy get into my DMs and we'll get those cards across to you. Congratulations. All righty. Into today's BroDown Showdown. Remember, really simple. All you need to do is comment Stu or Dyl, whoever you think is going to win. Remember, our regular BroDown Showdown is head-to-head in each position. So we spun the wheel off screen and Stu had first serve. He went with Grant in our hooker position. I went with Oliver Pascoe. We had fullbacks and Stu's gone with Edwards against my Walsh. And then he's gone Herbie Farmworth against Cooler. So if you think Stu's going to take it out with Grant, Edwards and Farmworth, make sure you comment Stu. If you think I'm going to get it done with Pascoe, Walsh and Cooler, make sure you comment Dyl. You can do that all the way up to the kickoff of the first game on Sunday. So make sure you get your comments in live, or if you are rewatching this on YouTube or listening on Spotify and Apple. Unreal. It is 7-all, mate. So plenty to play for. Back to even Stevens. I love it. Alrighty, that is it. We've had another great show. We've hit the perfect time. The AFL boys are about to jump on. Bales is on again with Ryan Pitt, the Pitmeister. So unreal to see them having another crack at it. Make sure you tune in as well. Make sure you tune in next Wednesday, 6 p.m., June 10th. The round 15 live preview. We'll go through all of the matchups, the start sits, the pods and the fades, and we'll talk through some of your comments. Thank you very much, Stu. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Have a great round 14.
Thanks, Dyl.